Hi there! So today we will have to discuss language teaching methods, a walkthrough. So we will not have a long discussion over this topic, but we will just have to shortly look at the particular language teaching methods that have been used since time immemorial. No, just kidding. Since then, okay, since we have started language teaching methods, and since we have started second language acquisition and learning. So let me show you this presentation. Check it out. Okay, so language teaching methods a walkthrough. So what will you learn in this particular event or topic? So first, our goal is to have a walkthrough of the methods used in language teaching. So when we say walkthrough, we will not have to discuss them in total, but definitely we'll just have to define, discuss, and just simply have a bit of ideas about all of these methods, familiarize the most effective methods, and critique the effectiveness and limitations of each method, and reflect on the methods used in language teaching in one's past language learning experiences. So while I discuss to you these particular topics, please reflect and think about how your teachers before, of course your English teachers, have taught you English or how you learned English, whether it had been effective, boring, or fun. Okay, first up is the grammar translation method. What is it? Well, this method that is focuses on grammatical rules as the basis of translating from the second to the native language. So this is how it goes. So if your native language is Tagalog, of course, and of course we will have to have a sample sentence in Tagalog. Like for example, the kid is running. Tumatakbo ang bata. Ang bata ay tumatakbo. Of course, in Filipino, you have the formal and informal form or karaniwan at di karaniwang anyo. So you'll have to identify the structure of the native tongue or the native language of the kids and compare it with the structure of the target language. Of course, that's English. So when you have to say structure, you are referring to the arrangement of the subject verb agreement. So it's gonna be SVO in English, subject verb object, and it's gonna be VSO in Filipino. Tumatakbo ang bata. So the verb comes first. That's gonna be VSO. That's the karaniwang anyo. But if you'd like to identify the character or the article, the definite article ang bata, subject, tumatakbo ay tumatakbo. Of course, I becomes a verb or a linking verb, and then definitely the object becomes tumatakbo, so VSO. But definitely, that's in some context, grammar translation method is effective because you just can't simply tell something about the kids and then eventually it comes out naturally. So it pays attention to grammar, but too much attention to grammar would also delimit the increase of knowledge of the kids in reference to language learning. So it somehow becomes very unnatural and highly linguistic. So it depends on the context whenever you can use grammar translation method. Next is the going and the series method. What is this? Well, since like a series, this is gonna be this way. So it's like a sequence of sentences, a sequence or series of sentences, which in which that the meaning or the words there are actually changes. For example, I walk toward the door. I draw near to the door. I draw nearer to the door. So you can look at the form of the verb here, walk as past tense. Um, Toward the door, near to the door, nearer to the door. And then while these series of sentences vary in their meaning, but we could actually make sense of how the words are actually changing or how their forms are changing while the meanings are also changed. Okay, this is also another method is the direct method. The direct method is just you have to simply teach English and that's it. Just teach English. So if you want to say, this is a dog, and you really just have to say, this is a dog. You don't really have to go back to the first language and you would say, ito ay aso, aso ito. You don't really have to say that, but it's just have to, discuss what it is. And you just have to tell them what these words are and what these things are as they are in the target language. So for example, you talked about vocab, so you just really have to show concrete objects. So when we say concrete objects, these are the objects that you can touch, you can taste, you can eat, using your senses. That's very basic. So you just have to learn about concrete words and concept words. So first you have to teach the concrete words. So you have to say window, you have to say glass, door, whatever. House. And then this is my house, that is her house, this is our house. this is their house. So it's going to be a form of, using the go in series method. But that's direct method. You just have to teach English directly, regardless of their native language. Next is audiolingual method. What is this? Well, basically, audiolingual method has been used by the military men. So during the American occupation to the Philippines, well, actually, our first teachers were the Americans, the American soldiers, and so they used the audiolingual method, and they taught us our ancestors to sing ABCs and all the like stuff. Yeah, apple, whatever that is. And so it focused on oral activity, pronunciation, and pattern drills and conversation practice. I'm sorry for this word. It's conversation. So yeah, that's actually traditional, and even now we still find audiolingual method as effective as it is. Yeah, so that is why it's also called army method, because the soldiers were the ones who used this one, and still we are using this one in terms of dependence on mimicry. Like for example, how do you naturally say acoustics? How would you say transportation? How would you say car? So definitely, if your mother tongue is Tagalog, you'd say car, car, car. But that's not how it is. How it is said in native English. So it's said car, car, car. You would not say water, 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 but you would say water, water, water. So that's audiolingual method. Not unless the kids would get your accent, yes, you would not proceed with the next target word. So for example, you would also say door, door, door. Actually, that's a Tagalog accent. Door, door, door. And you would say it English door, 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 or door, door, door. And it depends on your accent, but as much as possible, it should be as clear as and clear and understandable, regardless of your accent or background or identity. So yeah, you have to use it. You have to teach those patterns and concrete sounds using repetitions. So it's gonna be a repetitive drill. Somehow it's boring. Somehow it sounds like you're a robot. Yeah, that the teacher would always want you to express or tell these things, but that's kind of boring. All right. Next, we have CCL, Cognitive Code Learning. What is this? You just have to focus on learning grammatical structures, but a cognitive approach emphasizes the importance of meaningful practice. So it's grammar structures plus meaningful practice equals learning language. I don't know whether I like this, but probably the keywords here are little use of examples from authentic material. So meaning to say, you have to have books, and then you just have to look into the sentences and identify, let the kids identify where the verb is, the form of the verb, the structure of the verb, the organization of the verb according to their plurality, according to their sequence, structure, and meaning. So that's how it is. And then they have to have a practice of that, whether it's going to be oral or written practice. For example, past tense of the verb. I wanted to eat food. I, I, I ate salad. So you just have to use those past tense more. So it's going to be repetitive. Yeah. Next, example of this are here. In class, some kids would have to understand the rule of the day, that is the achievement of past tense, if it's actually the important topic that you have to discuss using past tense or past tense form of the verb. So that's how it is. Well, anyway, probably you can use this in your own practice when you become teachers. Bear in mind that it's actually your style, and it's the versatility and flexibility of your structures, strategies that you find most effective for your kids. So every child is different, so definitely that's it is the context where the kids, their background, actually their learning styles, are very important factors that you really have to consider on what methodology you would use or employ in your class. All right, the designer methods in the 1970s. The designer methods were actually exploratory in nature. These were actually proposals by teachers and educational policymakers. And so one of these is what we call community language learning. The community is involved in teaching language. How do we say that? So people who have access to, or people who are native speakers of the target language in your community or in your barangay could serve as a guest in your classroom. So you could ask Mr. Smith, like the husband of a Filipina, to go to the classroom and would talk to your kids. So as long as it's gonna be safe and it's allowed by your principal or the division office, probably that's gonna be fine. Suggestopedia is the use of music in English teaching. So I think, yeah, this is also fun. But as long as you can manage the type of music, the type of sounds that you use, I think this will help your kids and help them to, to bring a livable and lively atmosphere in the classroom where they can learn better. Next, the silent way. Now, the silent way, just learn something. Yeah, basically that's it is. But probably you gotta give them worksheets, plenty of worksheets, and they just have to learn what it is. Total physical response is the use of games. You just have to let them, the kids, play, 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 and play. And while they are playing, they are also talking. So how do they do that? Probably when you wanna teach them the prepositions like in, on, under, or beneath, above, yeah, above, or what it is, below, yeah. So it would be best if they're gonna be using blocks, yeah, wooden blocks would be perfect. So yeah, so you would have to say, put the blue blocks on top of the red blocks. Okay, so the kids would have to pick up the blue block and put it on top of the red blocks. So such instructions would help or compel the students to really listen to what you say, and they have to act or move and think while they follow your instructions to do what you want them to do. This could also be done with, teaching, what do you call this, action words like singing, acting, dancing. And you would have to put cards on the floor. Then when the kid would step on the red card or the singing card, then they have to sing. And what you are doing, you have to ask them questions. What are you doing? And then kids would say, I am singing. And then if they step on the red, the another card which shows dancing, then you have to ask them again, what are you doing? So the kid would say, I am dancing. So if you are talking about the progressive form of the verb, that's gonna be fine. That's gonna be one form of total physical response. Not and it's not limited to, of course, using games. While it is fun, but it's also tiring. But it, yeah. For kids, probably that's also fine. And also for adults, you can use total physical response approach if you want to teach foreign language to adults. And the natural approach. The natural approach is more like communicative in its sense. And it's more like how you're going to use the language in the natural sense or in ordinary discourse, how the kids could communicate to each other and within particular settings. All right, the silent way is the name of the method of language devised by Caleb Categno. Gategno, probably, yeah, probably he's Italian. It is based on the premise that the teacher should be silent as much as possible in the classroom, but the learner should be encouraged to produce as much language as possible. Well, it is good, but it is not as always effective. What if the language attitude of the kids is very low, or they're not confident, or they really shy and they don't speak? So what will you gonna do with that? So yeah, so that's gonna be a problem. But in its sense, yeah, it is good that the teacher would have less talk and the students would have to produce more language, and the teacher will just only facilitate or guide the students about the discourse or the flow of the discourse or the flow of the conversations that are being produced while you are doing the silent way. Yeah, so Suggestopedia is a method teaching in a foreign language which is more relaxed, interested, and positive, and it breaks, you know, barriers, but it uses music on doing this. All right, so there's one more thing about here in natural approach. There is emphasis on exposure or input rather than practice. So this is actually good. So you can try the natural approach, but definitely it's not as effective as it is because it depends on the language attitude, language confidence, and the language skill, the current proficiency level or fluency level of your kids. If the proficiency is very low, you could not expect that the kids would have a high confidence because basically they can't produce your expectations. They can't meet your expectations, so they most likely be inhibited to speak their mind. All right. So, lastly, my goal is to have, or for you guys to have a functional syllabus. Syllabus is actually like a course content or the design that you want to use. We have course guides in that we use in DepEd, but definitely they can be localized. They can be flexible, versatile, and you can always try to put inputs in your strategies. As long as you think that these strategies are effective, please use them. Always think about the students in mind. It should be the end point of language teaching. It's not about you. If you are good, you're good, then fine. But how can you transfer your skill towards the students? That's actually a challenge to every teachers. It's not about how good a teacher is, but it's how the teacher would be able to transfer those skills that he has or he have to the students, so that the students would be able to become more communicative and use that skill sets in their own development. All right, so that's all for today. I hope you learn about this. So enjoy until next time. Bye bye.